I left Pittsburgh 3 days after I found my wife in bed with my brother. I didn't just leave. I fled. Threw the apartment keys on the table, got in my car, and drove wherever my eyes led me. Turned off my phone somewhere on the highway. By evening, I ended up in West Virginia, in the mountains where cell service doesn't work even if you turn your phone back on. I rented a cabin through an old man at a gas station. He didn't even ask my name, just took the cash and handed me a key on a wooden keychain. Stove works, he said. Got enough firewood. Just be careful with the trails. What trails? He looked at me like he asked something obvious. The marked ones. Stick to them. The others. Done? To go. I nodded, thinking nothing of it. I shouldn't have. Morning greeted me with silence. Unfamiliar, thick silence that doesn't exist in the city. Snow had fallen all night. Light, fine, and now lay in an even layer, muffling everything to a whisper. I stood by the window with a cup of instant coffee, watching the bare branches of oak trees sway in the wind. My head was splitting, not from a hangover, from thoughts spinning in circles. Her face, his hand on her thigh, the creak of the bed I heard before I even opened the door. I needed to move, anywhere, just not sit here. I pulled on my jacket, shoved an old hiking map I found on the shelf into my pocket, and went outside. The cold hit my face, clean, sharp, smelling of pine bark and whetstone. Good cold, sobering. The map showed a trail, light ridge trail. A short route, 2 hours round trip, the perfect way to clear my head. I started walking. The first 20 minutes were normal. The trail wound between trees, snow crunching under my boots. A pleasant, soft sound that made me forget everything. The air smelled like winter forest. The slightly bitter scent of bark, cold moisture, somewhere in the distance, smoke from someone's stove. I walked, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe normally. Then I saw the marker, a bright orange rectangle on a tree trunk, freshly painted. The paint still glistened. I stopped, touched it with my finger. Dry, but clearly recent. This marker wasn't on the map. Strange. I kept going. 50 meters later, a second marker. Then a third. All new, all bright. The trail became clearer, as if it had been walked very recently. But there were no tracks, only mine. I stopped and turned around. My tracks stretched back in a neat chain. Beyond them, nothing, not a single print. The trail looked like it was used regularly, but no one left tracks. My chest tightened. I pulled out the map, tried to orient myself, but the forest in the Appalachians is cruel. Trees all the same, slopes all the same. Even the light falls in a way that makes you feel like you've already passed this spot. Twice, I decided to turn back. I turned around and froze. The trail was gone, completely. Where there had just been a clear path with markers, now there was just forest. Trees stood thick, snow lay untouched. My tracks ended 3 meters from where I stood, as if someone had erased them with an eraser. My heart began to race. I swallowed. My throat was dry. Shit, the voice sounded too loud. The forest swallowed it instantly. I tried to go by memory, but after 10 minutes I realized I was completely lost. Panic began rising from somewhere in my gut. Cold, sticky. I forced myself to stop, take a breath, calm down. Just go downhill. Sooner or later I'll reach a stream. The stream will lead to the road. I went down and heard a sound. Quiet, scraping, like someone dragging something metal across tree bark. Slowly, methodically, I froze. The sound repeated, a little closer, to the left, then to the right, then behind me. I turned around. No one. Only trees, only snow, only my tracks, stretching into nowhere. I walked faster, descended the slope, grabbing onto branches, slipping on wet stones. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands trembled, not from cold, from something else. From the feeling that someone was walking behind me. Not running, walking, calmly. confidently. The scraping repeated every few seconds. I emerged onto a small clearing and saw a house. It stood at the edge of the forest, listing to one side, with a collapsed roof. Windows boarded up, door wrapped in a rusty chain. Around it, not a single track. Snow lay smooth, as if no one had approached this place in years. I walked closer. It smelled strange. Not rot, not mold. Worse, it smelled like nothing. Complete absence of smell. As if the air here was dead. Next to the house stood a wooden post. On it hung a faded sign. Trail closed since 1984. I stared at it. Closed since 84. The trail I'd been walking. The trail with fresh markers. The trail someone was maintaining. It shouldn't exist. Behind me, something crunched. I spun around. Nothing, but the snow under a tree at the edge of the clearing was pressed down. As if someone had been standing there a second ago. And left, or hadn't left. The chain on the door pulled taut. I froze. It pulled taut again, slowly. The sound of metal on metal, drawn out, creaking. Someone inside was pushing on the door, not trying to break it down, just pushing, methodically, patiently. The boards on one of the windows began to bend. First one, then another. The wood cracked, dry, unpleasant, and between the boards appeared a face. Not completely, just part of it, an eye and a piece of cheek. The skin was white, not pale, white, like paper, as if the person hadn't seen sunlight in decades. The eye looked not at me, past me, to where there was nothing. The pupil wide, motionless. I couldn't move. The lips behind the boards moved. From inside the house came a whisper. Hoarse, slow, come back. The trail is here. The trail is for you. Something inside me broke. I bolted. I flew down the hill, not choosing my path. Grabbed at branches, slipped, fell on rocks. Tore my palms bloody. Didn't feel it. My lungs burned. Legs gave way, but I ran. The snow got deeper. Each step was a struggle. I sank to my knees, pulled myself out, ran again. And I heard it following me. Not running, walking, heavy, measured steps, as if whoever was walking knew I wouldn't escape, that the forest wouldn't let me out. Scraping, closer, louder. I glanced back for a second and saw it. Between the trees flashed a figure. Tall, too tall. It moved strangely, as if its joints bent in the wrong places. In its hand something long, metallic. It dragged this object across a tree trunk, and again came that same sound. Scraping. I screamed and ran even faster. Time stopped existing. I didn't know how long I'd been running. A minute, an hour, eternity. The forest was endless. The trees never ended. The snow got deeper and deeper. And behind me, footsteps. Always the same distance away. Not closer, not farther. As if I was being herded. Something glinted ahead. Wood, light. I didn't understand what, but I ran toward it because I had no choice. Wooden railings. A bridge over a stream. I recognized it. It was on the map. This was the way out. I flew onto the bridge, jumped over the railing, fell on the other side. The snow was hard. The crust crunched under my knees. I turned around, gasping. On the other bank, nothing. The forest empty, quiet, snow untouched. No tracks, no figure, no sound. As if no one had been there at all. I lay in the snow, gulping air. My hands shook so badly I couldn't control them. Blood pounded in my ears. In my mouth, the taste of metal. I forced myself to stand. Walked along the trail that led to the cabin. A real trail, with real markers. Old, peeling ones. 20 minutes later I saw the cabin, its roof. Inside, I collapsed on the floor by the stove. Pulled off my boots with shaking hands. Sat there for 10 minutes, just breathing. Then I picked up my boot. Looked at the sole, and froze. On the rubber were paint prints. Orange, fresh, marks from the trail markers. Markers that shouldn't exist. The trail had been closed in 84, but someone had been repainting the markers. Someone was maintaining it, for whoever would come. I closed my eyes and tried to calm down. Maybe this was all a hallucination, a breakdown, stress-induced psychosis. I'd just gone through betrayal, divorce, lost my family. Maybe my brain just broke. But then where did the paint on my boots come from? I stood up, walked to the window. Snow was falling again. Dusk was descending quickly. The forest was darkening. And at the edge of the clearing, at the tree line, I saw it. A post, wooden, with a sign. Trail closed since 1984. It stood 50 meters from the cabin. I stared at it. My heart stopped. This post hadn't been here this morning. I was sure of it. From the forest came a sound. Quiet, familiar, the scrape of metal on wood. Slow, patient, closer. I stepped back from the window, locked the door, slid the bolt, pushed the table against the door, and sat on the floor with my back to the wall. Outside it grew completely dark. In the window, only my reflection, pale, frightened, and behind my shoulder, in the dark corner of the reflection, something was moving, slowly, patiently, as if it had always been there. I found this text in a journal that was discovered in the cabin 2 months later. The owner reported that the renter never returned the keys. The journal lay on the table, open to the last page. The renter himself was never found, but on the map of West Virginia, the Light Ridge Trail is still marked. Closed since 1984. The markers on it are repainted every winter. No one knows who does it,